Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lyds and we're back for some more Thronebreaker, and last time we had another 3-round battle, and one that was probably the most representative that we've had thus far of life post-Isbel, and it was probably one of, if not our most convincing wins thus far, so that's definitely a good sign, because I was pretty nervous that life post-Isbel was going to be pretty tricky, but maybe we will be okay after all. As for what we have planned now, I think we have just about done everything that we know about at this stage, so we're basically just going to head over in this direction and see what we run into. I imagine there's probably going to be some encounter in this city-like area over here. There is also that little loot that we found after the last encounter, but I think it was unacquirable, so it's just a big tease. But let's head on over. Don't really know what to expect here. We are loading up on a ton of resources for what it's worth, although I don't really think there's much we can do with those resources at this stage, short of saving some for maybe crafting units if we absolutely need to. Okay, but yeah, this town has that question mark. Broadhead. I don't think we've heard about anything here, so I don't know we have any idea of what to expect.
Broadhead now loomed before Meve and her force. Once famous for its glowing forges and clanking manufactories, the city now stood silent. Why, you might ask? Because Mahakam.
What?
Decades past, it had opened its gates to human merchants and dwarven arms, exquisitely crafted and not nearly as dear as those made by man. The caravans had simply stopped coming to Broadhead.
So basically, they used to be the primary blacksmiths of Lyria and Rivia, and then once Mahakam came in and had their superior goods, then Broadhead kind of got left out.
When its black-clad garrison spotted the Lyrians approaching, they'd hastily fled, left the city's gates open wide. Yet, they did not leave empty-handed. Their convoy comprising at least a dozen wagons loaded ostensibly to the hilt.
With what might they have fled?
With something damn heavy,
replied Gascon, squinting his eyes.
Look at this. 2 horses to pull each wagon, and the wheels cut deep into the road.
Okay, so what? They have a whole bunch of heavy armor and weaponry or something like that? I don't know if... The other thing I could think of that would be heavy would be siege engines, but obviously you're not really carrying a siege engine in a wagon unless it's the components that would be assembled later. Maybe. Okay, so take the city without a fight or pursue the... I mean, we have to pursue the fleeing Nilfgaardians, right? Okay, hold on, though. Before we rush to this conclusion, which is definitely what seems to be the obvious choice, let's ask ourselves, is there any reason why one of our squad mates, one of our heroes, might take issue with that? This would seem like one of the things that maybe Isbel would be a little bit upset about, because we have the option of choosing peace, but we are going out of our way to choose violence. Obviously, Isbel is gone, so that's not really an issue for her anymore, but is there anyone else? Barnabas, Reynard, and Gascon, as I think I said last time or the time before, I kind of doubt that they are going to leave through, decisions like this, because it feels like they are pretty central to the story, and, unless there's some sort of conflict that directly involves them, like the spying incident in Ongren, then I think they'll probably be here for good. And outside of them, I mean, I think we're probably good in that case, right? The Skellige guys is a big question. Is there any reason to suspect that the Skellige guys would flee if we were to pursue these Nilfgaardians? I mean, there doesn't seem to be any connection to the Skellige guys, so I think we should be fine, but I don't know.
What they've taken from my city,
began the Queen.
they've taken from me, and I will have it back. Follow me!
Meve spurred
A little
her
petty,
horse
but
and
fair.
galloped off in pursuit of the fleeing caravan. When the Blackclads realized they had no hope of escape, they planted pikes and feet, bracing for the assault.
Okay, so hopefully this means that whatever it is that they were trying to steal from us, we can win back from them if we succeed here. As whether we are going to lose any teammates in the process, I mean, I would think we should be in the clear, but who knows? Who knows at this stage? But we do need to be careful of that going forward. It's a shortened battle, only 1 round, okay. In pursuit of Nilfgaardians, Meve felt a pounding blow. A Nilfgaardian arrow had struck her breastplate. Uh-oh. Fortunately, the plate proved sturdy, shattering the missile on impact and leaving the queen unharmed. Yet, if the archer's aim had been true, if the arrow had struck a few inches higher, Meve broke into a cold sweat. It's true, the war neared its end, but only constant vigilance could ensure her own would not be premature. Okay. Be careful here, Meve. So just 1 round. That does make it a little bit tougher with the Skellige guys in particular. Let's see. Before we start making up our mind in terms of what cards we want, let's see what they're starting off with. An Arbalist, damage enemy by 2 whenever an ally appears, gain 1 charge. We've seen this many times before. Pikeman, draw a copy of this unit on deploy, but they're already on the board, so that doesn't matter. Discard all copies of this unit from hand and deck if we destroy one of them. So that seems like something we'd very much want to do. Assuming they have more in their hand or their deck, don't really know. It doesn't destroy the ones on the board, so it's not a huge deal. Man, if we still have the leader ability that deals damage to cards that have the same value, that'd be awfully nice right about now, but anyways, let's see. So, yes, only 1 round means a little bit tougher to work the Skellige guys because we won't be able to bring them all out from our graveyard in round 2 or round 3 for huge tempo with Dogger. So that's a little more iffy. We could still sacrifice the warriors fairly easily, especially once you factor in the Ivana Runestone, but the brawlers in particular are pretty hard to destroy with just 1 round to work with. So we might dump you. Reynard plus leader ability can be useful. I think we probably do want to try to get the ballistas out fairly early if it's only 1 round as well. So I think we do dump you. Not a huge fan of the Alchemist, definitely. When we don't have the Infiltrator, that feels like that's not great. Dogger, yes, obviously he has the potential to be great, but he's not nearly as effective in 1 round matches, so we'll probably keep him in hand, but okay, now we do get an Infiltrator. I think we're probably, then we could get an Alchemist out with leader ability a little bit later. We obviously do have Tainted Ale still, so there's something to be said for using Infiltrator. Maybe this is okay. It is pretty light on Skellige guys. So what, turn 1, it's probably get rid of one of these guys, replace it with our 2nd Ballista, and what? More Skellige dudes? Patricide, I guess? Maybe it's that. They do have a decent number of cards starting on the board. Okay, I think we can make this work.
Stop! Whatever you carry belongs to me!
They gain ground! Dal Seifel!
Okay,
Wise
so
choice.
they go first. It's an Arbalist. Oh, that's unfortunate. Wish you hit one of these guys. Oh, and their leader ability, same we've seen a bunch of times. So we'll lose a little bit of damage because we're now down 1 Arbalist, but we'll go leader ability here. Swap one of you out. And in return, we'll get Patricide and we'll get a Ballista. They have a bunch of cards here, so Patricide should give us pretty solid damage even early, which is not always something we can say. Let's do that, and then as for what we play directly from hand, we'll go with our other Ballista. Okay. Like to get rid of these guys with our damage here in all likelihood, because they gain value over time. Oh, you're kind of nasty. You will get boosted up quite a bit. That could make you a good Tainted Ale target, so we might even deliberately ignore you, or we could seize you. Okay, so yeah, this guy we have enough answers for. I think that's not that big of an issue. We'll start with Patricide, I think. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards on the board. So it is overkill if we target you. I mean, yeah, we can get pretty perfectly optimized damage from the Ballista to get rid of you. So maybe we go Patricide here first. You are going to get bigger, or else you're going to get hit back. Oh, because it's a veteran. Okay. That is kind of annoying. I mean, with these guys gaining orders, stealing this guy he'll still get boosted even from them, which is kind of intriguing. But I think we'll still do this. This only counts as 1 order, right? Okay, I was going to say, that counts as 3 separate orders. We're in a lot of trouble. Okay, then we still have not played yet from hand. Let's get the warriors down, probably. Then we can go Nirvana Runestone on them, and then we can consider playing Dogger whenever seems like a good time to do that.
Waiting for a personal invitation?
Order!
Okay, that's fine. I would like these to survive, if possible. But you will deal damage, and you will obviously also deal damage. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards on the board. Once again, overkill damage if we target you. We'll probably do this. I think we pretty much stick with the same strategy here. That's adding up on Patricide as well, but we can bring Patricide back as well with Dogger. Obviously, he does not strengthen other Skellige guys, so there isn't that upside to him, but at least it doesn't make a huge difference if we lose him. Yeah, it probably means we lose 1 turn worth of order abilities, because he won't have Zeal when we bring him back, and it also kind of forces us into playing Dogger. But we can probably do this on this turn anyway, and that'll actually boost you up a bit. Strengthen you, so you can survive a few more turns, so it's not going to be as urgent that we play Dogger. So now we go here, and this is where you're going to start the Ballistae are going to get hurt a fair bit. So those probably will go down, and we cannot bring them back. You're 2 damage per charge, so this will get destroyed on this turn in all likelihood, unless they do something silly and target something else. But I think we can still live with that. And again, we're planning on stealing this or doing something along those lines. You know, could be Tainted Ale. Could be Artifact Compression to just remove you. Hey, sure, you want to go for Patricide, that's fine. Although you could still target this with your other charge. If Patricide does go down, you will get destroyed from this guy when we use your order abilities on this turn, but hey, at least that means we got 1 more turn than we likely expected to get. So now we might want to use Dogger, because we have lost Patricide. So that means we're missing out on that order ability there, which, when they have this many units, is saying something. That was basically guaranteed to either remove 1 unit per turn or get a huge chunk of damage on something else. So it's probably Dogger here. We could, however, steal you on this turn, and in doing so, that allows us to safely, or relatively safely, use these. They don't immediately get destroyed as soon as we click the order abilities. Yes, the Arbalest can still likely take you... Well, and then we use this to destroy the Arbalest, basically. Be also nice to shut you down on this turn, because the longer this goes, the more this starts to add up, and if we can shut it down on turn 1, as soon as you play it, then we shut off a potentially 11-point per turn engine, which is pretty nice. So what is our priority there in that case? Those are all interesting directions to go in. I'm not entirely sure which one is... Honestly, this 11 points per turn might be the most meaningful. And this is 6 points of damage per turn. So keeping them alive, if they last for 2 turns, then yes, that does pay out. Or keeping them both alive for 2 turns does immediately pay off in that case. But they still have the potential to immediately answer. So, well, okay. No, in that case, sure. We'll steal you. It's a little bit earlier than I'd like to be stealing you, but we'll do it. Then that means we can safely do this without you getting destroyed. And we're hoping that that means they won't be able to immediately destroy... They probably will get their leader ability back. Oh, no, they're on cooldown for leader ability, okay. Might be how they got rid of Patricide. Out of curiosity... No, that's not strong enough to take you out. Okay, so you're gonna at least get 1 additional Magni Division, so be it. And honestly, in that case, it might have been more worthwhile to have destroyed one of these pikemen and gotten rid of all the other ones, but we shall see how this plays out then. So you now are a good target for us to go after. They do create another Arbalest, but we have at least bought ourselves another turn of these abilities here. So, let's see. You're 12 damage collectively. That's not enough to destroy this Magnet Vision. If you use your Order ability, then you're going to take damage. You're going to get this boosted up. So that is nice in that way. We could Artifact Compression, shut down you. That might be worth doing. And then we basically just do what damage we can on you. Let's see. Yeah, and every turn we're not getting Patricide on the board is every turn missing 1, 2, 3, 4... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-ish points of an Order ability, which is unfortunate. So yes, there is something to be said for getting him out as quickly as possible. That's 8-ish points per turn, but this is 11 points per turn. So let's prioritize that. And now, and again, we can't really destroy you on this turn. So maybe what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of damage. This should be exactly 2 damage, so we'll destroy you. Theoretically destroy all the other ones in their hand and deck if they even had any, but I don't know if they did. Okay, there's the cards getting destroyed, so maybe that's a factor later on, not entirely sure. Now, we see if we can weaken you a bit. You're down to 10, which means you hit for 10, you're functionally an 18, you survive on 8 off. Survive on 8, which means you hit back, you survive on 2. So if we hadn't hit the Alba Pikeman, we actually would have had enough damage collectively across these guys and the Warrior to take you out. Which might be the difference between both of these surviving and not having both of them survive. So, okay, maybe that was unfortunate way we chose to set up that damage. But maybe they'll be silly with how they use that Arbalest charge again. They have 2 charges once they play one from hand here. Yeah, they do get rid of one of the Ballistae, and they'll get rid of the other as well. Okay, so that was the right way to do it. Now they play a different Magni Division directly from hand. That is unfortunate. So at this point, we have pretty much run out of clear and obvious answers to their engines, outside of using Dogger to get back Patricide. So I think what we do here is maybe we... can't really sacrifice you on this turn. You're too big. You won't get destroyed. We could destroy this, which is okay, although it is technically powering up the veteran weights. If you deal 2 damage per charge, we hit you for 3 damage and get... So you gain 2, we gain 5 every time you use this Order ability. So we actually want you to stay alive right now, especially now that we don't really have anything that must stay on the board at the moment. So this can stay. This is the highest priority. But we don't have a good way to answer it until we get you back. So basically, do we want to try to optimize around getting as many cards back out when we play Dogger by getting another Warrior on the board and trying to sacrifice them both, even though they don't have a good target to be sacrificed against at the moment? Or do we just immediately play Dogger to get Patricide on the board as soon as possible? I think we kind of have to do that, since the Warrior at the moment doesn't have any guaranteed way to do that sacrificing, so that could backfire pretty quickly if we try going that route. We do still get some out from our graveyard because we sacrificed the ones that we got through our trinket, and we might have had one other that we discarded or destroyed as well. And obviously Patricide, as we were saying. So this comes out now. We might have enough damage to do something to you. Going after Patricide, but they'll get hit back in return. Tons of Magni Divisions, okay. That gets destroyed. Now it is pretty much just the Magni Divisions. 1, 2, 3, that's 8 cards. So we'd love to try to get rid of one of you. We do have Leader ability back on this turn, so I think what we probably do is we are starting to run a little bit low on time for Tainted Ale plus Infiltrator for what it's worth, so we do kind of want to make that happen soon. I think what we probably do is we get super aggressive with Order abilities on this turn, between playing the initial Order abilities, playing Reynard to get those Order abilities back, using Leader ability when Reynard is on the board to get those Order abilities back, again, we can do some pretty serious damage. So I think primarily let's focus on Patricide. That is the most straightforward card to be using for that purpose. But we could also use some Disgraced Warriors for that job as well. Like, they can be, the little ones at least, can be sacrificed. So maybe we do this. I think this might be the only one that we can sacrifice. Immediately, at least. But then, because we can replay these order abilities, it may still be okay to sacrifice these, and then we can replay Dogger on this turn. We'll just leave this Footman on the board. Because we'll get potentially several of these warriors out in the process. So now we can almost successfully sacrifice you, but once we play Reynard, we will definitely be able to do that. Okay, so at the moment that's negative points, for sure. But that is subject to change. Because now it's Reynard.
Company!
That we should have done that one too. I mean, that one. Might have... It was bigger, so it's going to be a little bit tougher, but I think it still would have been possible. Okay, so now the obvious, or the easy thing to do is just that. And technically, we can still sacrifice here. I mean, just in case. Do that. And do... And I guess we can still, potentially still sacrifice. Yeah, we might have needed to have done the order ability before we even played Reynard. So now you're probably going to get too big to sacrifice, especially after having just sacrificed the other guy. So you take 11 damage. You're functionally at 22. Yeah, if we sacrifice you, then it is just barely too much to get rid of you. Okay, so this guy probably just stays in that case. Oh well. Okay, so now it's leader ability, replay Dogger. We'll get 3 Disgraced Warriors back. We'll get all of our order abilities back because Reynard is on the board. That includes Patricide's order ability, which means we can get rid of, well, a whole bunch of people, potentially. Yeah, we could just remove you with the Warrior if we absolutely had to. We'll see where this damage goes as well. Okay, so we do get rid of Dogger, only to replay him. And for the other card we want to get out, and it could be another Warrior just for a huge point slam. It could be Barnabas just to see what it is we get in return, but I think we can keep it simple here. That's not particularly helpful. That damage doesn't make much of a difference. Get the Warriors back.
Come on, kill me!
Okay. Get your order ability back, and I think now... Yeah, this is actually a little bit tricky here. You're at 21? Yeah, so you still... You can't quite destroy this, right? Because this hits... Well, wait, this hits for 11. You're functionally at 24 now? Wasn't this 22 before? So you're functionally at 24. You get hit for 11. Huh. Oh, but all the armor. All the armor is gonna keep this guy alive. Okay. Yeah, so we have to do this. Unfortunately, it's big time overkill, but it is still technically the optimal solution because this just didn't quite work out, the damage there. And we need to do this next turn, otherwise we will run out of time. So yeah, that's gonna keep on happening, unfortunately. You will get bigger. At this point, hopefully we've delayed their engines long enough that this is not going to get that big and we've stolen their bigger one. So now we should do that. I mean, that will still be their biggest unit in all likelihood. So I think that is now the target of Tainted Ale. So actually, we do still have an answer for it. So we do this. Then we'll go Infiltrator next turn. And we'll go Warrior and finish with Jade Figurine. But now we can do this. It's not quite enough to destroy you. It's not that close, to be honest. Well, when we use this Disgraced Warrior to shut you down, now we should be able to, I believe. Certainly, at least with a few more warriors of the same size. We can definitely make that happen. In fact, we could deliberately sacrifice one of the smaller ones to this guy and make you even bigger, and that would definitely do the trick. Is that worth doing? We lose a 12 and gain 2, 4, 6, 8, 10... Well, okay. Just about a break. Oh, and we have this one as well. Okay, so yeah, it is technically a net positive. Sure, we'll do that. Now we can definitely do this. That shuts down that engine. Okay. And now I think we're good here. Another one that'll... Oh, that was their last card. I didn't even realize. How did we get so many more cards than they had? Okay, so we could just pass here. I was going to be Infiltrator there. Disgraced Warrior, then Jade Figurine, but not necessary. I guess we'll just wrap things up here, and... As we were saying, 1-round matches are in some ways tougher than 3-round matches for us. So that's a good sign we can still make it work here, and the bigger question, though, is what, if any, bigger consequences are there for having voluntarily chosen violence on this occasion?
Meve personally, and none too gently, shackled the Nilfgaardian commander, a young nobleman with a precisely trimmed moustache.
The worst
Like
kind.
many noble Imperials,
I guess,
he spoke fluent
apparently.
common.
The wagons. What's in them, Captain?
Scrap, Your Majesty.
The Imperial promptly replied. Noting the Queen's confusion, he elaborated.
To be melted down and recast into arrowheads and spear tips. Our engineers originally planned to use the foundries in Broadhead, yet these proved too primitive. We were ordered to remove the scrap, take it elsewhere.
Okay. I guess that's believable enough.
Any pride from the victory vanished in an instant.
Oh, okay.
And Meve swelled with anger, but also with shame. The shame came from realizing that to the invader, her realm was naught more than a weak, underdeveloped backwater. Meve slammed the chest she'd opened shut.
Blast it. Back to Broadhead. Let's ride.
Crumbling walls, shattered windows, rotted wood.
Collateral costs out
Broadhead
here.
was bleak, a dull shadow of its former self.
Hey, but we didn't fight in
As
Broadhead.
the
It's not like we
Lyrians
just did
entered, The
this.
somber townsfolk glared at the arrivals and uttered not a word. Meve resolved to address the crowd.
Okay, so... Does seem as though that's just about worst case scenario, is... We didn't get anything of any significant value by tracking and fighting off those Nilfgaardians. I mean, we denied them the opportunity to get some resources for arrowheads and spear tips and what have you, which is technically, potentially significant, but I'm guessing there's not really going to be any concrete benefit in Thronebreaker to having done that. And so now it makes us feel like that was not an effort worth having made, except, I mean, so it definitely feels like that's the kind of thing that someone like Isabel in particular would have been mad about. Because basically we chose violence and we didn't really get anything significant out of having done so. Isabel's already gone, so that's not really a major concern. As for whether anyone else on our team is going to take issue with that, maybe we'll see. But the townsfolk, I mean, it seems like the game is trying to frame it as if we should feel guilty for the sorry state of Broadhead here, but it's not like that fight had anything to do with the state of the town anymore. That has to do with the Nilfgaardians having come here and ransacked the town long before we got here. So that's not really our fault, unless you want to say, you know, Meve getting driven out initially by the Nilfgaardians was the cause of this having happened, in which case, oh yeah, I mean, sure, technically it's our fault in that sense, but we didn't really have any say in that matter.
Folk of Broadhead.
Oh.
You're free at last. The Nilfgaardian occupation is done.
Okay. I am surprised that we're getting this kind of cutscene-like encounter.
Aye, and a new one starts now.
Are you madman? Don't you recognize our banners? The Lyrian army stands before you.
Oh, I recognize banners. Served neath them as a sergeant 15 long years.
Okay. This guy seems like he's going to be very grumpy. And I do like the sigil there for peasant.
And then I came back to my own town. Know what I found? Hardship and squalor, your grace.
Damn, that's not really... I mean, technically, sure. Queen Meve as leader, as the ruler of Lyria and Rivia, is, in general, responsible for the well-being of her subjects. So in that sense, she's a little bit to blame.
All had gone to shite.
Indirectly.
On account of damn dwarves. Been flooding Rivia with their metal goods for years now. Us smiths don't so much as light their pipes in their foundries no more.
Okay, so you're mad, I get it, but again, there's not really anything we can do to have made that a better situation for you. Obviously, we did meet up with the dwarves, but I can't think of anything we did in particular that would have caused this dynamic or exacerbated it.
You call yourselves the Lyrian army. Colours and banners confirm it. Well, what about your arms? Weren't forged in us fires, but in Mahakam's, by us worst foes. Hell, I even see some at knobheads in your ranks.
Okay, I mean, maybe, but again, it's like, oh, what am I supposed to do? I don't think there's anything I can do to stop that. Technically, our weapon on Meve herself, we got in Ungren. I don't remember what the origin of, I mean, it's called Ungreni Sword or something like that, so I don't know, is that technically of dwarven origin despite being found in Ungren? Maybe. But as for everyone else, nothing we could have done to control that.
So what freedom's it you're giving us, your grace? Freedom to beg in common, not in Nilfgaard's mongrel tongue?
Beg? What do you want about, man?
There's no levy on goods from Mahakam, but without it, us workshops don't stand a chance. And ye, your grace, you wear their armour, bear their arms, and bring bearded bastards to our doorstep.
Like, I get it. You have absolutely reason to be mad from an economic policy standpoint. Basically, you want us to have tariffs on Mahakam goods so that they can't come in, flood the market with superior products, and bump you out of the market. But and then we come in using their goods, and it just rubs that further in your face. But there's nothing we can do about that right now. I mean, if you want us to make a new economic policy right now, then I mean, maybe that's possible. Let's see. The dwarves are our allies. This is war. I do what I must to win. Flog this man. Okay. Interesting. So, I did not expect this encounter to go in this direction. So, let's see. This now, since it's very much pitting the Rivians against the dwarves, feels like, if anything, the game would be forcing us to choose between someone like Gabor and the townsfolk, or maybe even, I don't know, Reynard showing up here makes me a little bit nervous, just because that maybe is a bit of a warning that Reynard's loyalty is at stake here. But Reynard seems to be on our side here, and yes, as I said, his complaints are valid, are legitimate. It's just that there's not a lot that we could have done up till now to have changed that, to have improved that. So, in that sense, it's like, well, shrug it off, what can I do? But the question now, though, is basically, yes, from an economic policy standpoint, do we... Wait, there's nothing here that is an option that would be beneficial for this peasant. There's no option to say, oh yeah, you know, your request is reasonable. We'll impose tariffs on dwarven imports of arms and armor, and therefore we will give the local blacksmiths and armorers a chance to outperform them economically, or at least have a way to continue economic operations. Which, I mean, that isn't here. There's no option like that. So every option here from the peasant's perspective is bad. These are all pro-dwarf, or if you want to say neutral, solutions. The dwarves are our allies implies we're saying we cannot make an economic policy that is against the dwarves because that would make them mad at us and risk they not support us in the war effort, which is a valid counter-argument as to whether we prioritize having additional allies over the better economic conditions for our subjects. That's a different question, but one that we would need to consider if we are going to choose this. This is war, I do what I must to win. That's the weird thing, is that this is basically the same message, just with different framing, different delivery. This is more diplomatic, whereas this is more brutal and pragmatic. Basically saying, well, I would if I could, but I can't because we need the dwarves. This is, well, I don't care about you because this is war, and war is the only thing that matters at the moment, so shut up. And then this is pretty much the same thing, saying, I don't want to hear it. Your petty needs that you're asking me to pander to, when in truth, the war is a much bigger concern, so I'm just going to flog you to make you shut up. So these all are just different ways of saying the same thing, it feels like. In which case, I'm really not sure what the difference is between them. Other than maybe, doing something like flogging him would probably make our allies, be the most likely to make our allies mad. This, potentially as well, this certainly feels like the most diplomatic, and therefore I think this is probably the direction we ought to go. But that is weird, how similar all of these are in, what the actual solution we're proposing would be, because it's basically the same.
The dwarves are faithful allies. They help us because...
I mean, they're not going to be pleased with this, of course, but they wouldn't have been pleased with any of those other options either. I'm curious, to some extent, if there, under other circumstances, might have been a fourth option there for us to have done something that was more anti-dwarf, pro-local Rivian merchants and blacksmith armorer, but obviously that wasn't there.
'Cause they've got something to gain. Simple as that.
No. Like, if we need the support of the dwarves, because if not, then our entire country or state is going to be conquered by the Nilfgaardians, as they very nearly just did. So, yes, your economic concerns are legitimate and are important, but in times of war like this, they just don't quite rise to the same level.
Enough. Silence. Consider yourself lucky you've a merciful queen. I'd have had your head off by now. Move along.
Exactly. So that, maybe that's what would have happened. Is basically Reynard understands that what this guy is asking is, in the grand scheme of things, not as important as doing what is necessary to win the war, but Reynard at least respects that we chose the reasonable option and not, flog this guy or something like that.
Before Meve could leave the market square, Barnabas politely interjected.
But maybe Barnabas will leave. I don't really know why Barnabas involved. This is not really directly tied to Barnabas in any way. Barnabas, sure. If you abandon us now, you have not been a critically important card for us to have used in the past. I mean, ever. Well, yeah, you were kind of helpful every once in a while when we first got you, but you have not really tied into the whole Skellige spam strategy that we've been using as of late, unlike, say, Isbel, who was very synergistic with them. So, in that way, I think that if we are to lose you here, then we will be able to move on. And, I mean, this, again, feels like this is a lose-lose-lose-lose situation. There's no possible way to have benefit out of this. There also seems like there's no way to have avoided this, other than maybe having chosen not to pursue the Nilfgaardian caravan, but even then, the current economic situation of this town has nothing to do with whether or not we chose to pursue those Nilfgaardians. That issue would still persist either way. So, I don't know.
Frankly speaking, there's a bit of truth to what the man says.
I mean, he's not wrong. As I've said, he's absolutely right to have that concern. It's just that there's not really much we can do about that right now.
I'm perfectly aware of that. But what do you want?
And I'm assuming this is going to be Barnabas saying he wants to leave, but maybe not.
I don't mean to toot my own horn, but perhaps I might be of some help?
Oh, okay. Maybe it's exactly the opposite.
Do tell how. I'm all ears.
Everything your folk make here, the dwarves of Mahakam make twice as fast and twice as well. You
Right.
must find a so-called niche, an innovation. And it just so happens innovations
are Barnabas's specialty. Okay, go on.
Your speciality.
At the risk of being immodest, exactly. Besides, it might serve the cause of peace to show the folk here, non-humans, are not all bad. That they can help. Not just steal human jobs and piss in their milk.
I'll consider it, Barnabas. I shall think and let you know.
Okay.
The time came
Where do we
to
take it
leave
from there, then?
Broadhead, so Meve summoned her advisors, eager to hear their counsel. They put forth ideas, many of merit, but the Queen would decide the city's future.
Okay. Invest in the city's failing workshops. Costs us a lot of gold, but it increases morale. We are on neutral morale right now. We don't really have much of a need for gold, so there is something to be said for just throwing money at the problem and making that be our solution. Although perhaps Barnabas can solve those issues. I mean, in general, whenever squad mates have had a way in which they've been, heroes have had a way in which they've been able to contribute to a situation, has there ever been a situation in which that has backfired? It feels like, for the most part, whenever this is an option, it's always been good. Maybe I'm metagaming a little bit too much here, but feels like, Barnabas, this is what he does. He's an inventor. He's an entrepreneur. And that seems like just the kind of person that Broadhead is in need of. Someone to spice things up a little bit and give them an edge in their manufacturing processes in some way, shape, or form. So I think we believe in Barnabas. Maybe that means Barnabas leaves. Maybe he has to stay around in Broadhead to do that. But honestly, I think that's okay.
After careful deliberation, the Queen
Even if
approved
that's what that means,
Barnabas's
I think that's still
proposal.
okay.
He would manage the city's ailing industry and seek to restore it to health.
Barnabas, just please, do your best not to blow it all up.
Don't you worry, Your Grace. The only boom in this town's future is that of the economic sort.
Nice. Okay, so yes, we've lost Barnabas, but honestly, I think, at least from a narrative standpoint, I think, it's a happy ending of sorts for Barnabas. It feels like this is a good environment in which Barnabas can succeed, can do what he does best, and help make the other people around him, have that much of a, improve their lives, their livelihoods. He potentially could save this entire city. So if losing Barnabas, a card that, as I said, has not been critically important to our success, at least not as of late, then I think that's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make here.
At first, the Rivian townsfolk were skeptical of the Queen's decision, but Barnabas's schemes bore immediate fruit. Soon, the
Nice.
foundries and manufactories were bustling with life. Before
Very
long,
nice.
Meve herself received new goods produced there.
Okay. So, basically, in losing Barnabas, if you want to look at it strictly from a practical standpoint, we lose Barnabas, a card that every once in a while we played, usually at the very end of the match, as one of the last things that we summoned out with our leader ability, and it was a bit of a dice roll. Sometimes it was kind of helpful, sometimes it was reasonably helpful, other times it was just largely a non-factor to have played him. And so having lost him, we gained, 2,500 gold that we otherwise would have had to have spent. Otherwise, we do something bad by ignoring the city's needs, and who knows what happens. Low morale, some other negative narrative consequence, not entirely sure. So, but I mean, I think this is, compare this to what happened with Isbel a while back, the way that she left, where I took issue with how it felt like that was really forced. This was well executed. And I think, many games try to force the whole, oh no, you're going to have to sacrifice one of your characters, you're going to lose them, and you're going to feel bad about it. But there isn't really good build-up to it, and it feels like, it isn't worked in well, it doesn't feel natural. Whereas in this case, not only did it feel natural, as I said, it's a very logical thing for Barnabas to do, because the city needs a little bit of extra innovation, that economic niche, and that is exactly what Barnabas can do. So it logically makes sense from that standpoint. And also, it's not just a purely negative, oh no, Barnabas got mad and so he left and we should feel bad about it. It's okay, maybe we are losing Barnabas, but, you know, if we're thinking about the general well-being of the state of Rivia, then I think having Barnabas here is perhaps the best way for this town to succeed, which is an interesting little decision to make because, you know, if you're thinking it purely from a gameplay standpoint, yeah, sure, we lose one of our cards, and maybe that is a bit of a downside, but there's a reasonable counter-argument to be made for that, if maybe it's not all just about metagaming it, you know, to every last single card and resource, but something to be said for the state of the world that we are leaving Lyria and Rivia in when everything is said and done. But with that being said, I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here. I did not expect for this encounter to go in that direction in any of a number of ways, but as I said, I think it's well executed. That last part for sure, and yes, we're down one Barnabas, but I think we'll still be okay even without him. So thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.